We have, as you likely know if you live in Boulder County or another community like Boulder, but if you live in a metro region, you may not be aware of this. In more rural communities, we have hundreds of fires set by property owners every year. And that's in Boulder County alone when I say hundreds. So hundreds of fires are set by property owners every year. Obviously, it has to be in certain conditions, and I'll talk about that as we go through this. But the United States Forest Service concluded that the extraordinarily high winds that we faced on December 30th uncovered the buried fire from December 24th that had been set by the residents of 5325 El Dorado. The wind then blew those embers across the property and caught fire. In reaching that conclusion, the United States Forest Service, as the sheriff mentioned, also worked with the United States Department of Agriculture and the Missoula Fire Sciences Laboratory. And we learned that fire that is buried by dirt, that has smoldering embers, can go for hours, days, weeks, and in some conditions even months. And in the materials we'll be sharing through the sheriff's website today, you'll see that in the experts' reports, and you'll also see the research that they looked at in reaching those conclusions. So all that information will be provided to you. As the sheriff mentioned, but I want to highlight the video of the shed that was on fire on December 30th, which went viral. That shed was not on fire when first responders arrived on scene there. The excavation of the shed discovered that there was no electrical wiring or nothing within the shed itself that could have caused the fire or caught fire. It was clear that that was not on fire on December 30th when people first arrived at the property and residents and firefighters were working to try to put out the flames. There is no evidence that the residents of 5325 El Dorado set a fire on December 30th. There's no evidence of that. I say that based on all the work that was done, but also there were approximately 40 people living in the structures at 5325 El Dorado at the time of the December 30th fire. Sheriff's Office investigators and district attorney investigators interviewed all of the adults who were on the property at the time of the fire. There were also children there, and we utilized specially trained forensic child examiners to interview all the children who were on the property at that time to determine, did anybody start a fire on December 30th? And through all of the analysis and the interviews, we were able to determine that the fire was set on December 24th and that no one saw any smoke, flames, or indication of any fire whatsoever between December 24th and December 30th. To say that the investigators conducted a very thorough search of the property and of all the conduct that had happened in that week leading up to the fire would be fair. An incredibly thorough investigation was conducted, including a search of the entire property. So when we talk about criminal charges, when we look at a charge of arson, for example, there are two things I'll share with you that are elements for being able to prove a charge of arson. One is knowingly, which means someone knows or is practically certain that a result is going to come as a result of their conduct. If they know that what they're about to do is going to cause a certain result. Or recklessly. And under criminal law, not civil, but under criminal law, recklessly is defined as disregarding a substantial or unjustifiable risk. There's no evidence to indicate that when they set the fire on December 24th, that they had any knowledge that after covering it with dirt, that the embers would be uncovered by the wind, spark, and cause a fire on December 30th. In addition, there's no indication that they disregarded the substantial and unjustifiable risk when they started this fire on December 24th. I would highlight for you, as the sheriff mentioned, that on December 24th, it was wet, rainy, and cool out. Also, it's important to note what the sheriff touched on, that the firefighters from Mountain View Fire responded on December 24th after a community member called in about the fire having been set on the property at 5325. The firefighters, a Boulder County Sheriff's deputy, and someone from Boulder County Open Space and Mountain Park Rangers all responded. They determined, Mountain View Fire did, that the fire, the way it had been set, and their plan to extinguish it was reasonable and responsible. There's no way we could prove in court today that their conduct on December 24th was criminally reckless when the firefighters who were there determined that their conduct in setting the fire and their plan to extinguish the fire was in fact reasonable and responsible. And this is one of hundreds of fires that are used in Boulder County by property owners every year.